Hi, welcome to JD Sports. I'm Jared Hood. This is Dwight Garfield. You can find our Twitter @_JD Sports. Find the Facebook page through our personal Facebooks. If you're not friends with us, come find us. Let us know it's for the show. We'll get you through. This is a weekly sports show. Right now it's going to be about football. We talked about week 2. We're going to preview a little bit of week 3, but let's get right into it. Last week, I'm an Eagles fan, you're a Cowboys fan. We watched the game together. It was fun, That was about the most fun it was, though, because it was really kind of unbearable to watch. Only positive takeaway, though, is for the Cowboys. I mean, they played good defense. Who knows if that's the Eagles? And they have 2 divisional wins. One of them's on the road. It's against the Eagles, who everybody thought was going to be their biggest rival. As an Eagles fan, I have so much I could boil over with right now, but I'm going to let you take it away on the Cowboys and really just, I do. I want you to let us know your spin on it.
Can I start off with this time? Can I do this one time?
Little old school TO.
Can I do this one time?
Are you gonna go with the other old school TO with "That's my quarterback"?
That is my quarterback. No,
That's right.
So it's horrible. Obviously, it's a big loss. It's my quarterback, man.
Yeah, right.
What can I say? We played sloppily.
Yeah.
18 penalties, most of which were either false starts or delay of games, which is completely unacceptable.
Right.
I did like the way things were going outside of that offensively. I thought, other than that, we were marching down the field until we got into those situations where we hit the penalties that became 3rd and long, 2nd long, and then we ended up punting, and it just looked worse than it actually was. But outside of the penalties, we looked really good. And then Romo goes down, and my soul just left my body.
Yeah,
it was just horrible. I couldn't even enjoy the fact that we were beating up on you guys. You guys had 21 yards in the first half, which is disgusting. It's horrible. Brandon Weeden came in. He was 7-7.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a little harder for him to start the game and look as good as he did. But, I mean, obviously did a doable job. Had a nice, play, caught him on the blitz. Byron Maxwell kind of just stood there and let a receiver by him. And next thing you know, he got a touchdown pass. Romo's put on the IR, if I'm not mistaken, so he's not going to be able to play till week 11. So, I mean, that's a big loss until then. But I think that Weeden can get them through till week 11. And they just traded for Matt Castle, who's... I think as of right now, from everything that we've heard, he's just going to be a backup. A little more experience maybe with Castle. I don't know. Nothing really better than Weeden, but I think Weeden's going to be just fine in that role. It's tough because you're not going to have Dez. He's going to rely on Weeden a lot, and you got to figure out the running game. I mean, the running game looked pretty good against the Eagles.
The running game's been looking good for the past 2 weeks. The problem is that we kind of just abandoned it. So
they're not going to now. I really don't think they're going to.
We don't have a choice.
McFadden was on the field a little more this time too.
And I did appreciate that. I mean, we're going to rely on it obviously a lot more because of the fact that Romo's gone. Can the offensive line protect the running game enough that we can just get by and just win? And then saying that, can our defense then do enough to stop the teams? I mean, realistically, looking at our schedule, I mean, I think we can go 3-4 without Romo. I mean, we got...
That might be doable in the division, though. I mean, that really might be doable in the division. I'm with you. I think I lean more on the defense. They're going to have to be the ones to step up and make the stops because it's going to be really hard for the Cowboys to play from behind, more or less play from behind with like a big deficit. It's going to be almost impossible, at least from right now, from what we can see, for them to come back from that. So their defense is going to have to step up a whole lot. Now, to the other side of things, I know you have a lot to say about the Eagles, and I don't really like to question play calling, but even some of the play calls I was scratching my head on. I felt like they were trying to get DeMarco Murray involved a little too much, just to so he could beat his former team. They just didn't find rhythm. I mean, you couldn't. There was no offensive line. Like the blocking was just completely horrible. Everything that I see, it just seems like teams are picking up when they're going to run before the Eagles actually, run the ball. Bradford and Aguilar on that one route didn't look good there in the red zone, and then Jordan Matthews dropping the ball. I think it's still in his head from dropping the ball in week 1. I just I think there's potential for them to get it back on track because you saw what they did in the second half of week 1. But at the same time, is Dallas' defense even all that great in the sense of how good they made them look? You know what I mean? So it was frustrating to watch. I enjoyed what the defense did. It sucks that Romo got hurt because I would have liked to see if they would have held that up. I made this claim the other day. I think that if Des Bryant was in that game, though, it's not even close at halftime. I mean, it was 6-0 at halftime, and the Eagles, like you said, only had 21 yards. It's frustrating to think of, how scary that could have been. But
the fact that he wasn't in the game and it was still only 6-0 at halftime is pretty pathetic on our end. But again, I think that stems more of the fact that the penalties, because we were just running all over your defense because they were exhausted. You don't have an offense. Let's just call it what it is. Where is the genius?
No identity on the offense. 2 new guards are looking like a little worse of a situation than before. And Peters might have gotten hurt there too at one point. Kelsey, he messed up a snap at one point, and he's your veteran center. all these things are like tumbling downhill. Last year, the New England was 2-2, and Seattle was 3-3 at one point. You know what I mean? So it's not like crazy ridiculous. And it was only Sam Bradford's second start in 99 weeks. And I mean,
I think you're being very light on your team right now.
But if they don't get it together the whole season, it's going to be alarming. Not unheard of or really even crazy to think that maybe they just can't get it together. Kiko Alonso maybe going down, the unfortunate injuries going on with the defense after Kiko and Kendricks got hurt. Yeah. And then when they did blitz, Byron Maxwell was nowhere to be found on that play. And
shocking.
I mean, for the money they're paying him, for him to be tired, he said he was tired. It looked like he just wasn't expecting the play. I don't think he was tired on the play. I really don't. It looked like the ball was snapped and he just wasn't expecting it to happen. And I mean, no excuses like saying they were tired. You know what I mean? That to me, it's like I would have rather hear him just say he just wasn't ready for the play. Right. Because now you just sound like, dude, it's week 2. They're paying you how much money? And you can't like, what would it, as we said, Des Bryant, what would he have looked like against Des Bryant if you were tired in week 2 against the Cowboys in the fourth quarter? Then, without Des Bryant, you were covering Cole Beasley all day, you know? Yeah. I mean, the stats are real. Only 13% of teams that go 0-2 make the playoffs. So,
I mean, I'm at a point, I've pretty much written you guys off at this point. I already didn't believe in your defense, and now I completely don't believe in your offense. I mean, I'm looking for this genius in Chip Kelly that the Eagles fans appointed as a genius, and I'm not seeing it. Granted, you don't have an offensive line. We keep hearing that this Chip Kelly system, it's a system, but you got the players that you wanted now, and it's not working, so what's the excuse? You got rid of your actual playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. You got what you wanted. This is all on you now, and it's not working, so now what's the excuse? You pick up a running back in DeMarco Murray, and he's failing. He's losing his mind out there on the field telling me, give me the ball, what's going on, why is this failing?
I think in that situation, they shouldn't have been running the ball because they were negative, 16 yards? Or, negative 20 yards at one point of rushing the ball. So what would have been the point of handing him the ball off? And you might have gotten out of field goal range. You were on the 3-yard line. They might have put you back to the 50-yard line if you handed him the ball. So overall issue on the offense is the offensive line. Look at the Colts. I mean, you have an amazing quarterback in Andrew Luck, and they can't get it together because their offensive line. You know, I mean, that's literally the issue. And so I'm not saying like that's all they are away from clicking. I'm not saying that's all the Eagles are away from clicking because DeMarco Murray, Ryan Matthews, Darren Sproles, and Sam Bradford have never stood in the same backfield, you know what I mean, together before this. So that could be an issue too, that they're not really on the same page yet. I have optimism because I'm a fan, obviously. It's not crazy to write them off. I don't think, it's hard to say. I mean, they have the Jets this week. It's hard to say that they're going to turn this around anytime soon. At the same time, I have optimism from the fan side. I think there is things to build off of. You can't go anywhere but up, you know what I mean? I just, you know.
I completely hear the fan coming out in you right now. Well, I hear such a fan.
No, because I think the reaction from the Eagles fans is opposite. I mean, have you seen the video spiral?
I've seen a couple of them.
That's what I'm saying. So I think I'm in the minority here by saying that I think that
I mean it's not over, but we're at a point where
no, I agree with you, but I think there's not just with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think everybody in the NFL there's an overreaction kicking. You know what I mean? Right. I mean, look at the Cleveland Browns last week were the worst organization in the world, and the Tennessee Titans had the MVP in the next 7 Super Bowls wrapped up. Do you know what I mean? So, and then look at how that turned out. So, I'm going to pump the brakes, and I'm going to hold a second. I'm going to say, give me a substantial amount of games together under the system, and I will give you my whole if it's a failure.
Is it a failure if you go 0-3?
No, because there's 16 games in a season. But if they go 0-3, it's going to be really hard to make the playoffs. And if you don't make the playoffs, that's where it starts to become talk of failure. And that's unfortunate because I think that if you would have asked anybody, if I was to start being a coach this season in 2 years from now, I would have 20 wins under my belt. It would be crazy to say that he would be on the hot seat after 2 weeks. Do you know what I'm saying? So I don't think that. I think that is a little overreaction at the moment. He still has 20 wins in 2 years. This is only week 3 of the year 3.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
You're also a Philadelphia fan, and you understand that you guys have no patience, and I don't know how long you guys are going to be tolerable to this type of play because it's horrible.
The fans and the media will run them out of Philly. There's no question. It's just like New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It will. I do believe that they will they'll overthrow the king, as they say. On the flip side, those people who are freaking out in week 10, I don't want to hear those same people talking about how amazing this is. Because to me, it's like you didn't give it a chance. Like you didn't. You know what I mean? Like you're talking. Like all I hear is negative and how bad Chip Kelly is and how the system's this and how you did this and how you did that. I mean, you can't judge. You know what I mean? A game's not 1 quarter long. The season isn't 2 games long. That's what I'm trying to say.
I feel you. I mean, I never really bought into this
Right.
whole system game, but
That's
I completely understand where you're coming from.
College coaches in the NFL, to me, is a whole different. Like, systems do work sometimes in the NFL, but it's very specific. They've been doing it a certain way for a long time in the NFL, and it's worked that way for a reason.
I'm just saying you better get some players in.
Well, who knows if the talent's there or not? It's right now it doesn't look like it, and it looks like Sam Bradford's falling right on his face, but at the same time, Willie, I'm not going to say that he can't turn around either. I'm not saying he's going to...
I might give you to next week.
Another big game of this weekend, talk about everybody overreacting. The Bills, I mean, this was Super Bowl, like, almost 50, right?
Yeah.
Like, this was, like, New England versus the Bills. I picked New England. I have trust in Brady and Belichick.
You had that one.
I do always think that against Rex Ryan, as close as it usually ends up, in this case, as close as it looked, because it was not as close as the final score looked. But usually it's a really close game, not this high scoring. You did pick the Bills.
I did pick the Bills.
I don't think it's something you should just jump off of, but do you think it's worrisome for the Bills moving forward?
No, I'm not worried about the Bills. I still believe in them. I still have them as a wild card team, especially when I look at Miami right now. I'm not really sure what I see out of them.
Right.
Obviously, I didn't think it was going to look as bad as what it ended up looking at.
Right.
And like you said, the final score...
A little closer than the whole game. Right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because Brady almost put 500 yards on you.
Right, but then New England at the end there had to kind of make that push in the last couple of minutes to make sure they closed it out. So, I mean, the Bills, give them a little credit. I think it was as much the Patriots playing back as much as the Bills coming in there. But they didn't give up.
They were hanging in there. Mm-hmm. Taylor was hanging in there.
Yeah.
The running game, McCoy actually looked a lot better than he did week one.
I agree.
So,
and he had an injury going into the game.
Yeah, that's right. And even we said last week is that the Steelers in week one were able to run all over the Patriots.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Shady was doing to a point.
Yeah,
but no, I mean, I'm not ready to jump off on the Bills. I still believe in their defense. Their secondary obviously looked a little questionable against Brady, but it's Brady. He's on a mission this year, clearly. So, I mean, what can you say about that?
Right, it's hard.
I'm not ready to jump off of that. I still believe that they're going to be a legitimate threat.
I do too. A lot of upsides from the Bills. Tyrod Taylor, even though he did have the 3 turnovers, the 3 interceptions, he had 3 touchdowns overall in the game. Right. I mean, he did look pretty good overall. That's the second start of his career, and it was against Belichick. I mean, that's to be expected for him to fall flat on his face, and he didn't. He held in there, almost came back, and almost got the victory. But I'm with you. I think the Patriots they were on a roll. You said almost 500 yards passing from Brady. It's just insane to watch them. It's almost impossible to stop them. I think Rex Ryan. I mean, he was hanging in there. They were putting plays in there, and then the next thing you know, Brady would just find the open receiver. Deion Lewis would find the open hole and just run. It was incredible to watch. But you said Brady's on a mission. I mean, they look strong in the first 2 weeks. Does that just keep going?
I think it's very much a possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't see why not at this point. Outside of the fact that they can't seem to stop the run,
right?
I don't feel there's no glaring weakness on them.
And their front seven is, I think, their strongest point of their defense. So I do think eventually that will turn around.
Yeah.
It's kind of a newer front seven. Obviously, lost Vince Wilfork. Well, you let them go. I mean, to bring new in. So I'm with you. I think overall that they're going to be just fine moving forward in that division. I'm with you. I think the Bills, you said earlier, it's not a cause for concern. I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think it's not as high as it was week one, but not as as low as people can put them after a loss. 1-1's not that bad.
No.
Especially
they faced a juggernaut
into a division game in week 3 too. Right? I agree with you. On to our Power 5 for the next segment. You're gonna be surprised when my number 5. You give me your number 5. Then my number 5 right now is Dallas because they're 2-0 in the division. No, they're gonna fall. I understand that because they're gonna start losing. But as of right now, I'm basing them on 2 weeks. They're 2-0. Both are division games. You have to put them in there. I mean, they're obviously a Super Bowl contender, right? They qualify for everything that I would like in my Power 5 at the moment.
But are we talking about right now today? Because I don't even have them in my Power 5. I had to take them out. They were like number 3 for me. I had to take them out.
After 2 weeks, I'm putting them in my Power 5. Looking forward next week, probably not.
My number 5, I actually have the Steelers.
Okay.
Steelers. I mean,
tough week 1. I understand.
Tough week 1.
Week 2, they look good, obviously.
That's more of what we're going to expect to see out of them, honestly. I mean, obviously, week 1, we were talking about it, the juggernaut in New England, and that was week 1. So Brady was clearly one to make a statement, especially in that game. The only thing that I don't like about them is their defense. Yeah. Still, I mean, we're still questioning them. There's nothing there. No. So
I mean, even the Niners in not scoring a lot of points looked pretty good against their defense overall, which is kind of crazy to say if you look at the final score. But I think it was a little overall of both week 1 and week 2 for the Steelers. I think that they're not going to look as bad as they looked at times against New England, nor are they going to look as good as they did against San Francisco. I think San Francisco coming off a short week, flying across country, playing at 1 o'clock. I think all of those had a factor in why they came out so flat, but I think the Steelers were the better team anyways going into the game. Definitely. So they just steamrolled them. My number 4, and I do expect them to kind of maybe climb, which I wasn't expecting them to be as good as I think that they might be after I see them now. Arizona. I mean, they've been impressive over the first 2 weeks. I know the Chicago defense isn't all that great, and then Jimmy Clausen, as a Notre Dame fan, that's exciting to watch, but he didn't look all that good. But I still have Arizona as a whole team, and the way they looked over the first 2 weeks. Week 1, they had to squeak it out for the win, but they got the win. Right. And then, week 2, their offense rolled the entire game.
I actually have them as number 2. I agree with you. They're very impressive. Granted, they have wins over the Saints and
the Bears. Right, I understand.
But, I mean, you still got to do what you got to do. You still got to beat them, and that's still a task. I mean,
well, they went in there and they steamrolled the Bears in Chicago. I mean, that's how it's still impressive to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Carson Palmer's doing his thing. Larry Fitzgerald had a big game last week too. Yep. Their defense is looking solid. I'm liking Arizona. I really am.
Yeah.
My number 4, I actually have the Atlanta Falcons. They're 2-0.
Yeah.
I have them winning the division.
Yep.
They're looking pretty impressive. Matty Ice is doing his thing. Julio Jones is doing it. Again, it's another situation where I'm not quite sure about their secondary, but
I like their offense, but I'm not ready to just jump on the Falcons yet because the Eagles were obviously still haven't found their identity yet, and the Giants are just a mess, it seems like, in the fourth quarter up 10 points. Right. So I'm not ready to put them in my Power 5, but they are impressive. I think that their offense moves the ball incredibly well. Obviously, Julio Jones is just amazing to watch. I think people forgot about him because he got injured. Really? You know what I mean? He's just been incredible the first 2 weeks. But I'm with it. Their defense, a little sketchy because against the Eagles in that second half basically did what they wanted to almost overall. And then the Giants at time, who I don't even think have all that powerful of an offense, went all over their secondary. I mean,
they were bouncing back a little bit. It was getting interesting.
Right, and it's kind of so. I'm not completely sold on them, but I understand why you have them at number 4. Now, my number 3 team is Cincinnati.
Okay.
Week 1, it was in Oakland, and they just absolutely rolled Oakland. Week 2, 1 o'clock game against San Diego. I think I'm one of those people who thinks there's something to go with those 1 o'clock games and the West Coast teams, and it's just not easy for them to play. But I still think that Cincinnati is a strong team. Now I think this is going to be the real week, the real test, because I think Baltimore just completely skipped preparing for Oakland and prepared for Cincinnati. That's why I think Baltimore lost that game. I think that they're going to actually face a really hard test this week, and Suggs being out there trying to figure that out also, but we'll get to that in a second.
Right.
But I have Cincinnati at my number 3 team for the moment.
I mean, I can appreciate that. I actually have them just outside my top, my Power 5. Yep. So, I mean, I can understand. They're a solid team. Bernard actually rushed for 123 last week. Yeah. He looked solid, and I questioned the running game, so he came back.
AJ Green even had a nice catch in the end zone there.
Yeah.
I mean, Dalton didn't look completely horrific, but we talked about this before. It's not in the regular season that you need to be worried about with the Bengals. Yes, week to week, we're probably going to talk about what it means for them in the division moving forward. But overall, the real concern for them is when they get into the playoffs and beyond, because that's when they've struggled. They look like the Bengals have looked over the last couple of years. So who do you have at number 3?
And this is going to probably... Well, it's not going to surprise you because you know how I felt previously. I have the Packers number 3.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't buy their secondary whatsoever. I mean, I can buy into the fact that it's Aaron Rodgers and, he's got that Brady effect where he can just make anybody. I get it. That's awesome. I also understand that Eddie Lacy just went down.
Yes.
I also understand that, what was the other receiver? The one receiver just went down.
Yeah.
I mean, they're saying that he's probably going to come back for this coming game, but, I mean, my man needs some options. He needs some weapons. He has Jones, which, I mean, he's been doing his thing, but are we going to rely on this 2-man game? Is that what's going to come down to? Well, I don't trust their secondary.
Yeah.
I trust Aaron Rodgers, but I don't know if he's enough. I keep saying this. I'm going to stick to it until I'm proven wrong. And so far he's been doing that, but I don't know if he can beat my number 1 or my number 2.
Well, did you say your number 2 was Arizona?
My number 2 is Arizona.
Arizona, right.
That's a complete team.
Now, so my number 2 is Green Bay, since we're talking about them.
Okay.
I enjoyed. I think that they're going to be just fine. I mean, their secondary needs to get it together. I'm with you, but I think overall, Clinton Dix has been stepping up and making plays. Their front seven's been incredible. Peppers and Clay Matthews have been playing fantastic. I really like what I'm seeing from them overall defensively. Now, they didn't have crazy test week 1. Week 2, though, they stepped up on the front 7. We were talking about the run defense last week, and they played pretty well in week 2. Their front 7
Yeah,
overall.
they shut down beast mode. So I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Right. So I mean, I have them at number 2. I do think that Aaron Rodgers can make something out of nothing. They're rolling right now.
Right.
A win over Seattle basically gives, like they said, 3 games up on Seattle almost basically now with the home field advantage. So that's incredible. I mean, I still have they're my number 1 team in the NFC. Like they are without question. I think I still have them rolling the whole way. Well, who's your number 1 team? I think we agree on this.
Is it even a question at this moment?
Do
we even need to talk about this? Can I just cut it right now?
Tom Brady.
Obviously, it's the Patriots. I mean,
it's incredible to watch, but
you're just having a way with everybody. We talked about it. I mean, Brady's on a roll. He's on a mission. He's doing his thing. He's just doing what he wants out there. He's in complete control. I mean, we've seen this in years past, and he does it every single year, but I don't know. There's just something about like just watching these 2 games so far. It's like he's there. He's determined to make a statement, and he's doing just that. He's just tearing apart defenses. The Bills, I mean, that's a defense that we all believe is going to be at least top 5, if not in the top 3 defense, I think.
Right.
But he just did what he wanted, and there was nothing they can do about it. I mean, he has 3 rookies on the offensive side, on the offensive line, but he's just getting it out quick enough that nobody can get to him.
And they're still rolling the ball. Like you said, he gets the ball out so fast that no one's going to be able to really get to him in any sense. Their defense over the year is going to probably get better under Belichick because they have a lot of new faces under there. So number 1, I don't even think it's a question. I think they're going to stay number 1 for a while, but we'll see. They struggled early last year, so it's impressive to see them dominate early this year. Are they going to be able to keep it going late in the season, or is it going to be a reverse of last year? Wow. The next portion of this program, we're going to kind of run through every game, tell our picks. Now, week 1 I was 8-8, week 2 I was 7-9, so I'm 15-17 overall. Dwight here is killing me in the head-to-head matchups. We're going to try to keep track of it the whole season. What's your numbers?
I mean, the first week I was 12-4, which was very impressive. Last week it wasn't so much. I was 7-9, but right now I stand at 19-13. Not horrible, but considering how I did week 1, hoping to bounce back now. So. All
right, well, we're going to roll through them here. The Thursday night game, now this was recorded before Thursday, even though it might not be up until then. Washington is going to the Giants, who blow 2 10-point leads, right? And Washington looked pretty good last week against Seattle, which to me was a letdown game. We'll get into that a little bit, but who do you got in this specific one?
I'm not buying into the Redskins whatsoever. I just don't. I can't see the Giants going 0-3. And I'm going to say that a lot, actually, but I don't see them being one of those teams that's going to go 0-3. I mean, last week they held their own. They were coming back against Atlanta. I can only imagine they're going to do that in New York against a questionable Washington team. I mean, week 1 we were saying, Washington, they're not going to do anything. They win. All of a sudden they're 1-1, and we're all like, is Kirk Cousins legit? No, I'm not buying it.
That was Kirk Cousins' first win, was just this last Sunday against St. Louis. I think it was a letdown game for St. Louis. I think they were hyped off of this the Seattle game. I don't think they were really worried about Washington. I think Washington looked better in game 1 and game 2 than they have, or than I expected them to.
Right.
But I'm with you. I think that the Giants, they played well on defense in the first game, against a full-strength Cowboys team. And then week 2, they had their moments where they played well on defense, and their offense kind of got the ball moving a little bit for the first time. I do think they're going to come out with a win. I can't see them going 0-3.
No.
It's going to make things interesting in the East if they do pull off that win. Now, moving on to Sunday, the first game I got lined up is Tampa Bay going to Houston. I picked Jameis Winston in Tampa Bay. I didn't pick him last week, and I wish I would have picked him last week because look at what he did.
Yeah.
Right? That's pretty awesome.
Against the Saints,
I'm a fan of Jameis Winston, okay? So, and I'm not going to go against him this week. I think that he can go into Houston, who has a better defense than they do offense, but I think he can go in there, and I think he can put up some points. And really, I think they can win that game. You're not going to need a lot of points because Houston's offense is so sputtering. Tampa Bay's defense is awful overall. I mean, they have not looked good in week 1 or 2. But I think that Jameis, I think Houston's offense isn't good enough to put up as many points as Jameis will. That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm going with Houston. I just don't see that.
I think everybody is. So.
Isn't everybody? Yeah. I can't buy into Jameis Winston and the fact that he's going to be able to carry them again.
I think week 2. I think it was fun to watch. It was definitely out of the blue. He looked good though. I mean that's the biggest thing. He's going to have.
Saints.
But he had up games in college and he had down games in college. Some games he looked like incredible, and some games he threw the ball and 7 of them were picked off. But I think that if they can block, where he can stand in the pocket a little longer, that they're going to go way further than anybody expects. But right now, I'm just saying, week 3, I think they're going to be 2-1. That's it. I'm not going any further than that.
I think we're going snapping back to reality.
Okay, well, the next one I have talking about snapping back to reality is Indy versus Tennessee. Now, Mariota ends up almost bringing his team. Well, he got injured at one point, but his team made strides against Cleveland, almost came back and won. But the other side of this, Andrew Luck and Chuck Pagano and the Colts, they're just not on the same page. I mean, Chuck Pagano called him out. He said, this isn't as hard as trigonometry. He was taking direct shots as quarterback.
That's a problem.
Last time that happened in India, if I'm not mistaken, was Jim Mora taking shots at Peyton Manning. I'm pretty sure. Oh, that's right. They went with the quarterback over the coach. Worked out for them. Maybe it's going in this direction. I hope not, because I like Chuck Pagano and I really like Andrew Luck.
He doesn't have a contract, so...
Right, and I'm with you, and that was by his choice because they offered him a contract. I look at it this way. He said after the game, I forget the exact quote, but it basically one of the lines of Andrew Luck needs to just get used to them. Like he's been used to it. Well, he should be used to it after 3 years. Well, I mean, maybe you should fix your offensive line because that's not fair to your franchise quarterback. How do you feel about that?
I feel like that was a mistake on his part. Yeah. Like, why do that? I'm surprised. I mean, that was the first I heard about it was today. I'm surprised there's not more of a big deal going on about it. I only heard it at one spot today. Obviously, he's the franchise quarterback. He's doing what he can do. But if he doesn't have a line to protect him, I mean, what is he supposed to do?
Right. No, I'm with you. He didn't have time to throw the ball. One of his balls was actually tipped by a receiver and picked off. So, and the other ones, he was getting hit as he threw. I mean, if you're not going to protect him and he's going to get hit as he's throwing, that's what's going to happen. He's going to throw it doesn't matter if you're Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, or you or I. If you're getting hit as you throw, you're just not going to be able to throw the ball where you want to throw it. It's just how it goes. Their defense didn't look horrible, but Ryan Fitzpatrick moved the ball against them. Like, moved the ball as getting first downs and getting across the 50 pretty often. And then he would stall out somewhere around the 45, 40. But he was moving the ball against them. That's a little worrisome for me that they didn't get the pressure. I mean, they went out and they got Trent Cole. You know what I mean? They went out and they tried to ring up that defense. I think that will help them on the offensive side of the ball, but I think we both agree their offensive line is the biggest worry.
Yeah, I mean, it's a problem. I mean, they went up, they got weapons for Andrew Luck, but unfortunately he's not able to get much out of him right now.
Well, with all that said, I picked them. I just don't see the Tennessee Titans being able to compete with them. No. It's a division game. It's basically a must-win for the Colts. I mean, the Tennessee defense isn't all that great. I think Andrew Luck's going to be able to pick them apart. No. One of the biggest matchups in Week 3 is Cincinnati going to Baltimore. Baltimore coming off a letdown game. Cincinnati 2-0. My thing with the Baltimore game in Oakland is that they flew out to Denver, played Denver on Sunday, and then went somewhere in San Diego or somewhere in California, got ready for this game, played Oakland. Now, that's a whole week away from home. That's a whole week away from your bed. It's a whole week at a different time zone. You're looking at that game on Sunday and just saying, I want those clocks to hit 0 so I can get on a plane and go sleep in my own bed and go back to normal. Even though their offense put up 30 points, their defense, without Terrell Suggs, wasn't as focused as they usually are. And I'm thinking it was just a letdown game. They just wanted to get out of California, go home. They're 0-2, though. It's costly.
Especially in that division.
Big game against Cincinnati. I think I have Baltimore winning. I picked them to bounce back and win. If they don't win this game, I'll probably give up on them. But I don't want to give up on it. I like Joe Flacco. I think he's the most underrated quarterback in the game. I like their defense. C.J. Mosley. Even without Suggs, I think they can be okay. I like what they do on offense overall, even though they don't have a whole lot of weapons. They still put up 30 points last game. Right. That's what I was most worried about because they held Peyton Manning to, no touchdown.
So which defense is it? That's the problem.
I think it's that defense. I think that this week was just a letdown fluke game, and that's why I'm picking them to come back and win.
I have them winning too. I mean, Bengals have won 4 of the last 5 meetings.
Yes. But I know everything's going against it, but that's part of the reason why I'm picking the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I mean, I just can't see Baltimore going 0-3.
Right.
I feel like they are more so.
The message, yeah.
I agree. I think their defense is more so what they were in Week 1 against Peyton Manning of all people.
Right. And that's where I was coming from.
They're just going to have to ignore that and just keep moving forward and keep doing what they can do.
Yeah.
And I think that they can pull out this win.
Moving on, talking about another team that I'm not 100% sure if San Diego stayed on the East Coast this week, but they played Cincinnati last week and they played Minnesota this week. They hung with Cincinnati, even though the 1 o'clock, flying over from the West Coast, playing the 1 o'clock game was difficult. They hung with Cincinnati for most of that game. I don't think that Minnesota's as good as they looked last week, I picked Minnesota, but I think I like Teddy Bridgewater, and I like the way that Adrian Peterson has opened up the field for Teddy Bridgewater. Kyle Rudolph is catching everything thrown to him. I mean, they're using him like a switchblade. I think their offensive line needs a little bit working on, which seems to be the message for every NFL team. With Adrian Peterson, like he found ways in the passing game to open it up on a little, hey, just throw me the ball. And when he was trying to block, he just slipped out and got, on a whim type thing. He found ways to open up and get the ball in space and move. I think that he's just going to keep finding that way. That in San Diego, they're so up and down, and as well as they played in both of the first two games at times, they played really bad in both of those games. And I think that Minnesota's defense I think they looked pretty good against Detroit this weekend, even though Megatron ended up having his biggest game in a while. I still pick Minnesota.
I can't go with it. I have to go with the Chargers.
Yeah.
I'm going San Diego.
I still believe in Phillip Rivers. Not saying that I do believe in Teddy Bridgewater yet, but that team believes in Teddy Bridgewater.
I don't believe in him. I also don't buy in Adrian Peterson this year. I mean, yeah, he did his thing last week. I mean, good for him. But
it's only week 2. I mean,
exactly.
I'm with you. Now, the next game I have is New Orleans without Drew Brees probably against Carolina, who scratched and clawed their way to 2-0 in both victories. I'm a Cam Newton fan, and he has brought this team. I mean, I said it last year, he drug them to the playoffs. Obviously, Drew Brees being out, and their defense can look good against Jameis Winston. Cam Newton's just a better version of Jameis Winston at the moment because he's more experienced, but basically the same size, same style of play. I have Carolina just, blowing them away. Carolina's defense looks...
On my way, though?
Yeah, because New Orleans, I mean, their offense has to move the ball. I don't see their offense moving the ball. I like Carolina's defense. Carolina's defense stepped up big last week. I mean, they looked really good overall. Plus, like I said, I just think Cam's going to be able to move the ball on them well. I mean, it might not be as big as a blow as I'm thinking, but I still think Carolina wins either way.
My pick is pretty much based on the fact that I'm hopeful that Drew Brees plays. But if he doesn't, then I'm probably going to regret it. Right. I'm basing this on the fact that I think that Drew Brees is going to play. It's still up in the air what's up with his injury. It seems like all the injuries this year, we can't get concrete answers.
He's allowed to go get a second opinion, but
it's getting ridiculous.
I find it weird. What's the point in having a policy, an NFL trainer policy, if they're just not going to listen to the trainers from the NFL anyway?
But I mean, come on now. Can we just get a little better facts than what we get on these injuries this year? Can I just say that? But in saying that, I'm picking the Saints just because I don't see Brees as going 0-3.
No.
Drew Brees. Cam Newton, I like him, but I think you overrate him a little bit.
Well, no, I mean, look, he just hasn't had any. He hasn't had. Name his best receiver outside of Steve Smith. He had I think 60% of the runs coming into this year since he's been in the league.
That's horrible.
Well, you can't do that as a quarterback. You're not going to win in the NFL if your quarterback's doing that. And they somehow were actually winning in the NFL with him doing that. That's why I think of Cam Newton the way I do. He has the talent to be up there with those top quarterbacks. He doesn't have the talent around him to show that, nor do I think he has progressed enough in the playbook to be an elite quarterback. The next game I got, Jacksonville, got a big victory.
Oh, is this even going to take long?
They're playing New England, though. Okay. Now, Allen Robinson, I think he's still going to have a big week, but I think that New England's just going to blow him out of the water. I think Miami was overlooking Jacksonville, just like I was saying about, I think the Ravens were overlooking Oakland. Because Miami's coming up on a big division game that we'll talk about, too, in a little bit. But so that was part of that. And Jacksonville has a little bit of talent, but, I mean, it's Bill Belichick versus Blake Bortles. No. That's all you have to say. I think we're both on the same page here. 3-0 from the Patriots.
I have nothing to say. Patriots, the end.
The line on that is 13.5. Do you think they'll win by 2 touchdowns? That's the early line.
At least.
Oh, that's incredible, right? So
that's all?
That's insane. That's easy. That's a huge line for Vegas.
That's easy.
The next game I have is Pittsburgh playing St. Louis. Now, I think that St. Louis had a let-up game last game, but I still think that Pittsburgh is the better team overall, so I picked Pittsburgh in this one. Bell coming back. Williams was already running really well. I think he looks really good in his Steelers uniform. I think he was something just fits about that. Roethlisberger playing well, obviously. And their defense, stepped up. Didn't play all that well overall, but they got the victory. I still think they're better than St. Louis. Foles didn't look all that good in Washington. Has a good defense, but with as good as Pittsburgh's offense is, I think they're going to be able to overcome that. Who do you got in this one?
I got Steelers as well. Yeah. I mean, I think this is now the time the Steelers want to start rolling a little bit. I mean, can we just pump the brakes on St. Louis? I mean, we talk about how great their defense could be, but I mean...
They can turn back around, and if they do somehow find a way to win this game, and it was just a fluke in Washington, then I think we're talking about a whole different St. Louis team than we think of in both of our minds. I don't see St. Louis as super legit, but I think they're on the cusp of legit, and I think their defense is good. they just didn't look good as a team this week. And that's, I mean, and the Steelers look good as a team overall in the first 2 weeks, even though they lost week. Oakland traveling to Cleveland, a 1 o'clock game. Oakland coming off a big win. Johnny Manziel in Cleveland coming off a big win. Hey, but that was a big throw at the end of that game. Now, they're up in the air if they're going to start Manziel or McCown. So
Is that even a question?
I mean, I think, but look at what Manziel did this week. I know
I'm starting Manziel.
Yeah,
I'm starting Manziel.
Oh, really? So, wow. See, a lot of people do think it's a question.
He won.
I think, yeah, I'm with you. And I think at some point, the organization is going to just like Washington did with RG3, they're going to have to give Manziel a chance, right? I mean, they tried to last year, he got injured. But why not now? It's better than never because he, like you said, he won. If he ends up flopping and he ends up having a bad couple weeks, then you can go back to McCown, no worries. Because if he went back to McCown now anyways, it was no worries, you know? So It is what it is. You got to see what he did. You put a first-round draft pick on him. I mean, you almost have to you got to ride it as long as you can.
I mean, at this point, you have to.
Yeah. I picked Cleveland to win, and I like what I see from Manziel overall the first 2 weeks. Again, as we say, offensive line is their issue, but this week it wasn't as bad because he was able to scramble around and get the ball out before defenders got to him.
Right, well, I mean, I'm going with the Raiders. I don't like Manziel as an NFL quarterback. We overhyped him, and now we're getting to a point where we're finding out that maybe he's just a little mediocre.
I don't know if he's going to be a flash in the pan. I'd like to say he's not going to be. It's hard to say he's not. I see things from him that I like still in game.
I mean, have a moment.
But he doesn't have an offensive line at the same time that I don't know if I can literally just throw it out the window. They're not the best organization to come in the league to anyways, as we talked about before. So that's kind of hard. The last 1 o'clock game I have here is Philadelphia going up to New Jersey. I saved it for last because I really just didn't want to talk about it, honestly. I mean,
this could get embarrassing.
I picked Philly because I'm an Eagles fan. They just can't go 3-0, but this is going to be it. If they lose this, then I guess, what am I doing? It's over, right?
I don't know what to do with you.
No, I mean, I truly think that the Jets are probably going to win this game. I'm not naive, but I mean, listen, I'll put our head-to-head. I'll put a game on the line of our head-to-head by flying with those birds.
Well, I'm just going to have to fly with the Jets.
That's all right.
I mean, their defense is looking incredible. Are you kidding me?
10 turnovers in 2 games? 5 in each, literally.
And considering what our defense was able to do against?
Right.
Come on. I'm not going to say the Eagles can't somehow get better. They can only get better. At this point, I'm going to buy into the fact that they're going to just make you guys look embarrassed again.
I think this game has the potential to be 3-0 Jets because I think that the Eagles defense, now you got to figure out what's going on with Kendricks. I know Keego's probably not going to play this week. I truly do think this has a chance to be in like an old LSU Alabama game from a couple years ago where no one's scoring touchdowns. I don't know. We'll see. I mean,
you're going with your heart.
I have to. Well, no, I did. I said I absolutely is the whole fan pick. I truly do think that the Jets will probably win this game. I have no hope to think that the Eagles will, but at the same time, I can't go against those birds just quite yet.
I'll make it real easy.
San Francisco, traveling to Arizona, divisional game. San Francisco basically they don't need this game. This isn't a must-win. It's hard to say there's a must-win in Week 3, especially for a team that already has a win, but any chance to win this division, you're going to have to beat the Cardinals and Seattle at some point, so why not now than ever? I got the Cardinals winning.
So do I.
Yeah, we both have them in our Power 5, so that makes sense.
I still think that the Cardinals are incredible. I don't buy into the 49ers whatsoever. They beat, big deal, you beat the Vikings.
No, I hear you. On Monday Night Football.
Stop it. Can we just, no.
Atlanta playing your boys. Now, Atlanta 2-0, your boys 2-0. Brandon Weeden going to get the start. He's going to play against Matt Ryan.
No.
Dallas's defense looked really good in the first 2 weeks, but it's more like how they looked against the Giants than I would say against the Eagles. They shut down the Giants. Now, obviously, without Victor Cruz, this is going to be the 2 best wide receivers that Dallas has played this season. Definitely. But so that's going to be the biggest test. I think that Atlanta's going to win this game just because their offensive weapons are going to be able to outshine. But if Weeden looks anything like he did, there's a shot.
I'm not picking them. There's no reason to pick Dallas. Why would I pick them at this point? Both teams are 2-0. That's fantastic. But our offense is completely different from what it should be.
Well, if they can run the ball really well, then that's like you said, that's a side they haven't shown us.
I think Julio Jones is going to light us up.
Oh yeah, so do I.
So the fact that he's going to be able to light us up, the fact that I don't feel like we have anything on the offense right now today that I can say, we're going to go with that. No.
The next game to get to is Chicago playing with a backup quarterback going to Seattle.
Oh, that's ugly.
No better way for Seattle to turn their season around, right? You're going against a pretty bad secondary in Chicago, and as much as I'd like to hope that Jimmy Clausen could, play with house money and do something. I don't see it happening. I got Seattle winning this game. I think that this is the perfect situation for Seattle to right all the wrongs, and their locker room needs something like a blowout in week 3 to put them together.
I'm glad you said blowout because I have them winning convincingly.
Oh, yeah. This game is the only other double-digit line that Vegas has opening. It's 14.5. So that means, do you think they can win by 15 though?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. I mean, it's the Bears.
Yeah, and the Bears have looked like they...
If Seattle doesn't win this one, they're done. And I have them in the Super Bowl again, which isn't looking too good right now. But if they don't show up Chicago, there's a problem.
This is a good week to right that wrong against Chicago. Now, Buffalo going to Miami. Now, I said last week that Miami had a letdown, and we both have talked about it before. Miami... I picked Miami to finish before Buffalo in this division because of the quarterback situation. But I actually picked Buffalo in this game, and I might be thinking about, man, like maybe I picked wrong before the season because Buffalo does have that quarterback that we said all they needed to make them better than Miami. I like Tyrod Taylor. I picked Buffalo. Who you got?
I have the Bills as well. I mean, Tannehill, he's been producing. He's been putting up big numbers, but... It's him. It's legit just him. He doesn't have a running game whatsoever to help him out. I think they only have like 60-some-odd yards rushing total.
I'm pretty sure he has like a 1/3 of those or something like that.
He does, and it's Buffalo's run defense is already overpowering, so obviously that's just going to continue against the Dolphins. I don't think Tannehill does enough.
Well, Miami's secondary was torched, and that was supposed to be something that was like their strong point. So it's a little scary to think of in that sense. I think that Tyrod Taylor's he was moving around with his legs. I think Shady's going to be able to move the ball a little bit, and that Miami can't find a run game, and they're struggling on offense because of it. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see about that. I picked Buffalo. I'm starting to think that Buffalo could be the second best team in this division. We'll see.
That's kind of up in the air.
But at the moment, it looks like it's going in that direction maybe. Now, interesting Sunday night game. Denver is going to play Detroit. I have Denver winning this game just because Detroit, a lot of question marks from the first 2 weeks. 0-2. The first week just was really, really good, and then since halftime in that game, it's just been a struggle, it feels like, for them. I picked Denver. Who do you got?
I have Denver as well. I mean, everybody wanted to write off Peyton Manning. Granted, they kind of squeaked by against Kansas City last week because of that fumble by Jamal Charles. But, I mean, I'm not ready to write them off. Right. Their defense is really good.
Yeah, their defense is extremely good. That's what I was going to touch base on.
And I feel like Peyton Manning, he's not done. Can we just stop talking about that?
Yeah.
There's an argument that could be made that they shouldn't have won the last 2 games, but, I mean...
But their defense in both of those games stepped up extremely. And at point, there was a very small couple minutes there where it looked like their defense was having a hard time with the Chiefs. But they put it together, and they made big plays against Jamal Charles the entire night. And I think that they can shut down almost any receiving core in the league. They're playing a lot better than I thought they were going to play overall. Kansas City going to Green Bay, talking about Kansas City. They had a hard time. The defense played pretty well. They looked good overall against Denver, but they just couldn't get the win. I think they needed to basically get that win to maintain in the division because obviously the 2 best teams in that division are them two, so they feel like they really let one slip away there. Going in against Green Bay, to me that's a formula for no chance with how good Green Bay is and how good they're playing at the moment. I got the Pack. Who you got?
I got the Packers as well. I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
I mean, I don't think the Chiefs can stop him. And, I mean, granted, I question the Packers' defense, and granted, they are going to be facing Jamal Charles. They did contain beast mode to like 41 yards last week. Yeah. So, I'm not saying they're going to do the same thing to Jamal Charles. No. I think he's going to have a much better game than that.
Yeah, me too.
But I think Aaron Rodgers is going to light him up.
But I still think they're going to do enough, like you just said. I think they're going to do enough in the run game. Their secondary seems like it's been okay, at least steady enough, and Alex Smith barely passes to his receivers anyways. Yeah. So on top of that, and I'm with you. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is necessarily going to light them up, but I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to do what Aaron Rodgers does, and they're going to walk out of there with a big. Moving on to the next portion of this. It's kind of a raw way for us to do it. We ask each other 3 questions that we haven't talked about, just to try to get, something different, some topics going. The Jets, Cleveland, Oakland, Tampa Bay, Washington, Jacksonville, and Atlanta all won. Okay, now none of those teams were really teams that we thought were going to be legit playoff teams.
Right.
The Jets and Atlanta are both 2-0. The rest of those looked impressive this weekend. Are any of them legit?
I mean, I'm going to have to either go with Atlanta or the Jets. if you're asking me to pick one, I guess I'll just stick to my divisional pick of Atlanta because I don't know how I feel about the Jets offense. We all say defense wins championships. That's all fine and dandy, but if you're not putting up points, it doesn't matter. And so I don't know if they can put up points to win games. I know Atlanta, obviously you got Matty Ice, he's doing his thing, he's just lighting people up. I'd much rather see Atlanta.
No, I'm with you. Obviously the two 0-2 teams, it's going to be the Jets or Atlanta that would probably be the most legit out of those other ones. I mean, it's just fluke that Jacksonville, Washington, and Cleveland, it's fluke to say that they all got to win in the same week. But for all of those teams, I got the Jets actually being the more legit team out of them. It's going to be harder for them because they have a tougher division. They have, obviously they have to get through Buffalo and Miami just to get to the second spot, and then they're obviously not going to get to the first spot. But Atlanta has the easier division, so I think Atlanta has the best chance of making the playoffs. I'm interested to see the Jets offense. It's going to be hard without Decker, but them moving forward, if they can get something together, as good as their defense has played, 5 turnovers in 2 weeks, if they can keep that consistency, I mean, they can be extremely legit. But I think you might be right.
All right, so my first question, granted, let's say that Drew Brees is going to be okay and he's going to play.
Yep.
Are they done? Or the same overall? Do you think that this dynasty, I should say, do you think that this great run? Yeah. Do you think that this run is over?
Sean Payton and all that.
Yeah.
It's gonna. I hate to say yes, but yes. I mean, it was almost, and it's hard to say it's a flash in the pan, but it was almost a flash in the pan. As consistent as they were, he didn't get there till like 2009 or it might have been a little earlier than that, but. I just, their biggest push came in 2009, 2010, and it's kind of just been like a slow drop-off from there, but the last 2 years have just been almost unbearable, I'm including this year. And then in the year that Sean Payton got suspended for that season, they didn't look good that entire season either. No. And that was only 2 or 3 years prior to that. So overall, lately, they've been more disappointing than good. They haven't, as good as Colston is, or as good as Brandon Cooks is even now, they've been looking for like a Joe Horn type receiver, a long time. As good as Colston has been, and I think that he's underrated, he's obviously not the number one that can lead them to where they need. And as good as Drew Brees is and as fun as he is to watch, he did have surgeries, and there was a reason Miami passed on him. Now, that was years ago, and obviously they were dead wrong. But at some point, that does catch up to you. And at some point, he's just going to hit an age, and his body's going to start feeling the effect of those surgeries.
Sad because I've enjoyed watching Drew Brees. He's a heck of a quarterback.
The thing that 2 years ago when they had their a decent run was they had a good defense. They were top 3 in defense. Last year they were 30th or 31st in defense. Yeah. Even with Drew Brees, that's not going to be good enough to win. I mean, I know today's NFL defenses aren't always the biggest thing, but last year it was the Patriots and it was the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, and those are 2 defensive-minded coaches. They neglected it for a good while, and now they're paying the price for that. Now they're trying to rebuild their defense from slowly, and then you look at the offensive side, and it's like, wow, all of a sudden Mark Ingram's a little older than you want him to be. C.J. Spiller's your backup, and you're not using him the way you want to. Marquise Colston's now, a 9-10-year vet. Breeze is a little older. You know what I mean? Right, you don't have Jimmy Graham anymore. I don't think that moving forward, they're going to be a title contender with Drew Brees and Sean Payton.
It's a shame.
No, it is a shame because I think that
they were good for the NFL.
Yeah, and I think that they're good overall. I think that they're both very good football minds and very good for football in general, like you said. So it is a shame. It's not fun to watch. And everything that happened in New Orleans, for them to bring that city back up the way they did, they were a big part of that. They were basically,
they were almost one of
the right, exactly. And they end up somehow miraculously winning a Super Bowl, and it was impressive and incredible. And they had that. It's just it's hard. It's hard to watch.
It's a shame.
Mm-hmm. My next question for you, are we going to get, and I know we talked about it, we touched base on it, but are we going to get the St. Louis from week 1 or week 2 going forward? Not just this week. I mean going forward the rest of the season.
Oh, God, that's a fuck of a question. Can I say that? More so don't believe in them. So, and the fact that they beat Seattle, we don't really know where they're going at this point. So, could they be done? It's potentially a possibility. So, I think it's more realistic to say, no, they're not what the record says that they are, so.
I think they match up good against Seattle, so it's always hard to tell.
Right.
You know me, I was never a Nick Foles believer, even after that incredible season, as good as he was. I don't see him being a Super Bowl contender. I do think their defense is legit, though, so I'm interested to see how they go moving forward. But now this is the reason I didn't go too far into it earlier. Peyton Manning, you kind of brought it up earlier, and I want to touch base on it when we have more time. You said not to give up on him yet. It's hard. Right. He's not throwing the ball as far as hard as he once could. That's obvious. But he's still Peyton Manning, and when they opened that offense up, he ran that system like it was great. Like, obviously this week they moved the ball a lot better. Do you think they do that, A, moving forward, and B, can Peyton hold up? Or are we going to get the week 1 Peyton that didn't get an offensive touchdown, that threw a defensive INT?
I mean, it kind of goes back to the whole Drew Brees thing. Are we getting to a point where we're ready to write him off? As much as I think it's more realistic to write off Drew Brees, I don't think it's realistic to write off Peyton Manning at this point. I mean, he's going to get to a point where he's going to start to taper off, and maybe this is the year that it starts to slow down just a little bit, and we do see week 1 Peyton Manning. But I still can't say it. I mean, he's Peyton Manning. Do I think that they're going to be good? I feel like they lost their moment to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I feel like that's gone.
But
they had their chance to do that, and they just didn't do it.
On the flip side of that, I think their defense is a lot stronger at the moment if you're talking about specifically Denver. Now, right. I think that overall, Peyton Manning's not who he was even 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl.
No, that's obvious.
It's late. It's not now in the season. I didn't expect to see what we saw week 1. I expected to see better. And I honestly even expected more of the Peyton Manning from last year in the early weeks in week 1 and 2. And we didn't get that, but we got a Peyton Manning, like I said, in week 2 that looked a little better. But I think great. It's going to be, they went out and got a better defense because in December and January they're going to need to stop teams from scoring a lot more than they do, obviously, because that's when Peyton slows down. So, I mean, I guess they're going in that sense. I don't think Peyton's done. I think that he can push, this team forward with what he has up here, but I think physically it's catching up to him, and like you said, it's obvious to see, and if he's not going to be able to throw that 20-yard, the ball 20, 30 yards now, what's it going to be in November and December? Well, that was JD Sports. I'm Jarrett Hood. This is Dwight Garfield. Check it all out. Thank you for watching.
Deuces.